Yeah.
What do we learn when we read this book?
Well, it's a part of history that a lot of people don't know. And it has the details of how the Selma movement got started. And it gives the details of how Selma came to be a historical event, and how it made a difference in our entire country, but a lot of people don't know the impact that it made around the world. And the whole idea of one man, one vote was one of the things that inspired people to believe that they could make a difference. And Selma had a unique role in history because in the very beginning, Selma was not supposed to happen. There were people who wanted to have a movement in Selma, but the people who were invited to say go to Selma didn't see any hope. And they said that, well, we don't think anything could be accomplished in Selma because the white folks are too mean and the black folks are too scared. But there was, I have to say, you know, it's really one person. And I know because I was there 50 years ago, who inspired other people in Selma and the leadership to believe that something could happen in Selma and that Selma could change.
And indeed, something did happen in Selma.
Exactly. And Mrs. Amelia Boynton Robinson, Amelia Boynton at that time, said that we need to come to Selma. And she's the one that had that hope. And there were people in Selma, as well as people outside of Selma, who shunned Selma and did not believe that anything could happen. Well, this book is about the history of how the Selma movement got started and some of the early beginnings and the entry and the kind of lessons that we learned and the kind of hope that was inspired and the kind of efforts that we were made in terms of trying to get people themselves in Selma. Because nothing could happen in Selma unless the people themselves were willing to take a stand and take the risk. And if you do not have any hope, then you will not make the effort. So this book is all about overcoming hopelessness and overcoming fear. Because one of the reasons people didn't have hope in Selma is because they were overcome by fear. And that was a good reason why people were afraid in Selma. And so this book details the beginnings, and it's my own personal observations and my own personal perspective and my journey in Selma, Alabama. And it was actually Mrs. Boynton who invited the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee to come and make that one of their projects. And there were efforts that were made in Selma that were being made before I arrived. So what I did was just simply enhance what was generating.
So all you had to do was hit your horse to the wagon and go on and pull. Huh?
Exactly, because the wagon was already rolling.
All right.
Okay.
Tell me what it is that you really do appreciate about this woman, Amelia Boynton Robinson.
Well, the first thing that I appreciate about her is her loving spirit, there's nobody who ever met Mrs. Boynton who had a negative feeling about her.
Amen.
Because she always exuded love, compassion, and concern, and respect for others. And it did not matter what status that you considered yourself, whether you were poor and homeless, or whether you were rich and wealthy. For Mrs. Boynton, everybody was the same.
Bernard Lafayette came to town. Tell me about that situation. Were you surprised to see a young man with guts able to stand up under that pressure?
Definitely. And to look at him, he was so kind, understanding, and the type of fella who could walk with paupers and with the rich and still not seem to lose that touch he had. That's the way he came to me. And I said to myself, well, I believe this guy can talk with the princes and paupers and not disturb them.
And you had that confidence right from the start?
From the start. I don't know, it was something that drew him to me. But what happened in his case, here we are trying to get the adults. We didn't think about the little children.
Okay.
And the youth. And what he did, he went to the school and he saw some of the kids in the yard. Come here. I've got something to tell you. How would you like to learn some Negro songs, either Negro songs or...
that represent freedom?
I don't know whether they knew anything about freedom.
Okay, go ahead.
So they said, oh, we'd like it. So he said, okay, and he started singing "Oh Freedom" or some song like that. And he said, go on and get your buddies. And they brought quite a few other folk. And the school decided, these were the youth, they decided that they wanted to learn some of the songs too. And that was the beginning. That was where we were able to tell the world what was happening. And what he did, he took the youth, he took the kids who had no clothes to wear, and as much as they're having to buy them. He took the kids who did not pay rent. He took the kids who had nothing to do. If they put them in jail, that was all right, and they did. They took so many kids that the jails were filled. They took them and sent them to other counties. But they didn't care. They had nothing to do. They had a room over their heads, and they had something to eat.
Right. How did the other adults feel about him using the children?
Oh, we know that he was all right because of the fact that they were eating and they weren't going to kill them.
Okay.
And the kids were happy. You put them in jail, they were ready to go back again.
Right.
So, only because under the supervision of Bernard Lafayette, we got the right to vote.
She was accurate, very accurate in her description.
Dr. Lafayette, did you get flack from the other scared adults when you started appealing to their children?
Well, some of them, they call me a freedom rider. And I was a freedom rider, but they just thought anybody out there trying to bring about change, they classified them as a freedom rider. They were thinking more of a freedom fighter, but freedom rider. And they said, all you're going to do is get these children in jail, and you don't have any bond money to get about, and you just come here stirring up some trouble and everything.
And they were telling the truth, so what you said?
Well, I didn't deny it. I basically responded by saying, well, isn't that great that they could go since you can't go? If you can't go, let the children go. And that was a verse to one of the songs we used to sing, that let the children go. They need to be free, and they want to be free. And freedom doesn't come easy. You have to fight for it. And so these young people were ready. Now, I have to tell you that I did not have to do a whole lot of convincing. All I had to do is tell them where to go to get in jail, which way to go, and they followed that direction.
So those children had a sense of fed-upness within themselves then?
Yes. They'd come to the point where they realized that their future was hampered by the oppressive system there in Selma, where they grew up. And because of television and because of other exposure, they could see that life could be different for them as human beings. So the question is whether you're going to go north, okay, and get out of the South. And those from Alabama usually head north straight up to Detroit.
Didn't we, though?
Yes, Detroit and Michigan and places like that is where we headed. So that was a choice. You're going to either get out or you're going to make a difference where you are. And
how old were you during this period?
Well, during that period, I was actually only 22 when I went to Selma, Alabama. Boynton, the third was Amelia Boynton, who inspired me to take on one of the most difficult challenges in my life, Selma, Alabama. She encouraged me and stood by me, and every day she was a glowing example of courage, quiet defiance, and determination, and a reservoir of generosity. I knew every moment I was in Selma that I was not alone, and that what better mentor could one have than Mrs. Amelia Boynton. Her leadership was similar to that of Martin Luther King, Jr., bringing others to the forefront and then standing with them. It was her eternal optimism and hope that made the Selma movement possible. She helped me to grow from a young college student to a man in a short period. When one has to make decisions that will determine life or death, one understands that adulthood and manhood are all about.
What I'm hearing from you and Dr. Lafayette is you guys was empowerment for one another then,
yes.
Right?
Yes, as I said, that we were like chains locked together. I was still trying to work with the adults, but he took the young people who had nobody to look up to.
And nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
Dear Mrs. Boynton, without you, this book, nor my experience in Selma, would not have had been possible. Thank you. Love, Bernard Lafayette.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.